I mean, I think that was like one of the biggest things that I learned from you, or that I gained from involving you, is like really focusing on the kind of energetic economy of a song over the course
Yeah.
of a movement. Like, I've been writing songs since I was a teenager, and obviously you think about like you start small and then you build up and then you bring it back down and then you build up, but like you have like almost, to my mind, like a noise or ambient artist's orientation towards that stuff, like the ways in which you would choose to affect elements or filter elements or bring little tension notes in here and there. Like instead of like, my instinct would be like, let's go to the crash for this part and just like really rip it. And you're like, no, like what if we just bring out the high frequency just of this one little part? And it's like a way headier impulse than I think people maybe recognize in you, because you do like a lot of just like banging shit, and like stuff that just knocks so hard. And so I think people maybe miss that about the Dre Skull school, the Dre Skull technique. We both have a super analytical relationship with choices in songwriting and in production and stuff. But the goal of that analysis is like to produce a really intense emotional world in the song.
I don't think of myself as a musician, you know?
Hmm.
And in some ways, obviously, that's a constraint. I guess it's interesting what it would take for me to think of myself that way, or what I feel I'm lacking. But
Yeah.
basically, ultimately, I feel my relationship when I'm making music, because it's not like just naturally, intuitively flowing through my hands. You know, it's a series of kind of analytic decisions, essentially. You know,
Yeah.
and yet my relationship as a fan, it's like nearly spiritual. It's very like I'm looking for kind of a transcendent emotional, or I'm looking and or it comes to me, you know. Well, I was just gonna say it's worth saying that your demos very very unique in the history of demos I've received, but in a very amazing way that, yeah, I don't know, it's like the mind of a mad genius, but
Yeah, the demos that I
just
delivered to you were like hundreds of
99
tracks.
yeah, yeah, hundreds of tracks. And then I was most struck by certain, say you have an 8 bar piano melody
Yeah.
that might have been divided up over like 7 tracks, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
So very interesting insight into how you composed the demos and how
Yeah.
that music came to you.
I feel super blessed to have like started, I started making music on a 4 track and then went to an 8
Right.
track and then had a digital 12 track. And there was just like, like I had the programs on the computer, but I always preferred to just use like my little Kmart keyboard and my little drum machine and my digital 12 track and just get things in and just like really live in the process of writing out the yeah, I guess I keep coming to this like organic metaphor, this like body of the animal. Like just getting the animal in view, and you like, you know, this is maybe too trippy, but like evolutionarily, like it's not the case that like a liver popped up in on Earth and a heart popped up on Earth and two lungs popped up on Earth and then they like got together like once they were designed perfectly. That's just not how bodies grow. Like literally it was like the things develop, bodies develop as wholes and then they internally make progress over periods of development, and that's how you get something that's actually living and not just an amalgam of parts. Psychedelic. um, but so with like Can't You Tell, I wanted to have a song that had like angelic moments but also like had banging moments, and then like like had moments where like when you're caught up in a romantic energy, it's like this swirling in your head and in your body, and it's like can be super disorienting, but then also you can have these moments of like real clarity, feelings of real clarity in sex and in love. And so I just wanted to bring all of those elements into one song, and I didn't quite know how to do it from a production angle, because I basically just had this drum loop and this piano loop. And then, you know, the way that we started building up the song was super experimental again, where we had the drum loop, we had a piano loop, and then we just started pulling things out and adding a different piano arrangement in this section, like experimenting with a complete dropout of all the drums in the middle of the song and just letting me sing. Like, the choices were super free once we got the kind of the goal in view for the song.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember some of those nights working on that, I think we both knew there was something really special there,
Yeah.
and we didn't want to kind of get in the way of what was already there.
Right.
So there was a lot of ideas that were really great on their own, but it was like we were doing too much and kept having to try to find how to have like the well economized restraint that would let the song kind of be what it
Yeah.
needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you remember I had the entire melody of the song, the vocal melody. That
Right.
was what I had. Was I had sung the entire thing. I remember we had a friend come into the studio. We had just tracked just basically the vocal melody and piano, and we
Right.
played him just that, and he was like, "This is so cool. Is this done?" We were like, "No, like it needs like all these drums and all this." And
Yeah.
he said to us like, because he works with like Usher, and he was like, you know what Usher would do is Usher would just like flex on this vocal melody and like
Yeah.
no arrangements, like maybe
Yeah.
some drums, but like let this vocal melody be the absolute guide. And I remember thinking like, oh shit, yeah, okay, that's true. It's got to just be all in the service of this top line, which is like so direct and so just like raw.